Hello. So today I have for you my weekly wrap up. I only read 5 books this past week, and that is because of what I'm currently reading, which we will get to in a second. But not saying that what I'm currently reading is bad, because it's not. It's just a thick one. But let's get through it. Let's talk about it. First up, last week I read The One by John Mars, which is a thriller that was making its rounds a while ago. It's about this dating app that matches people based on their DNA and picks like who's going to be your soulmate based on your DNA, and it follows so many different characters. Starting out this book, like I want to say the first 50 pages, I was just absolutely just like, I don't even know what's going on. I don't know who these people are. I kept mixing up two of them, Mandy and Jade. I kept mixing up Mandy and Jade. They were the same person in my head, even though they were not the same character. Which is interesting. We follow a lot of different people. We follow the creator of the app, and we follow a serial killer who gets matched with a police officer, which is honestly they were really cute. We follow a straight man who is engaged to a woman who gets matched with another man, and it was interesting once you got past getting all of these characters. So like 6 point of view characters. Once you got past all of those characters getting thrown at you at the beginning and actually started figuring out who was who and what was going on, it was fun. It was fast paced. It did not take me long to read at all. It's fairly thick, but I think it took me a day anyway. The writing wasn't super great. It's very juvenile, the writing. It's very British. This book is very British, and I can't with the British sometimes. But it was okay. I gave it 2.5 out of 5 stars. It definitely wasn't the worst thing I've ever read. But I don't know if it deserved all the hype it got. I think it was really like a concept thing. Like the concept was just so interesting that so many people were getting into it, because it is an interesting concept and it is an interesting situation in that regard. But yeah, I did read it 2.5 out of 5 stars. And next, I read volumes 8, 7, 8, 9 of D. Gray Man. This is a manga series about like this steampunky universe. This is one of those manga series that I don't really care about, so I'm not reading it in order, which makes me not really understand what's going on ever. But it follows these exorcists, and this is the main character right here. I fully admit that the main reason I don't understand this series is because I'm not reading it in order. I just keep jumping around. I've read the first volume, and I've read like the 12th volume and the 3rd volume, so like it's my fault. But it's interesting. It's very kind of typical shonen situation. This was popular back when I was in like middle and high school. I believe it came out, yeah, it's came out in 2004. So it was popular before that, even popular when I was in like middle school. But I remember this being kind of lifted up there in the same way that like Bleach was, and Bleach was my thing when I was in high school. But the art style is, again, very typical for the time. One thing I was sad about, the one character that I remember that I love is this guy right here, and he was hardly in this one, so that was kind of sad. I'll give it 3 out of 5 stars, but it's probably my fault. Next, I read an animorphs book, and this is one that I had never read before, I don't think. And that is The Reunion. This is number 30. In this one, we follow a preteen having to make the decision of whether to kill his mother and how to live with himself when he realizes, yeah, he's going to do it to save humanity. Classic Animorph stuff. But this is a Marco book, and the series is good. The series is quality. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't have much else to say. I guess Animorphs is a children's science fiction series from like the 90s about these kids who end up getting the power to morph into animals to save the world from these brain takeover aliens called Yeerks that go in your ear and just take over your entire brain. And I read it when I was a kid, and actually when I was a kid the only books I read were the Marco ones. I read the first 3 books. Must have been the first 4. Whenever I ran into the first Marco book, that's when I stopped reading them in order and just started reading the Marco books. He's funny. He's a funny guy. He's also extremely pragmatic and dark. If Rachel's a war criminal in the way that she just goes in and starts killing, Marco's a war criminal in that he would press go on the atom bomb if he found it pragmatic enough. He's a funny guy, but he does have the he's the goofball, but he's also, you know, he knows what has to be done. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read one of those Kindle Unlimited romances, except for I read it in paperback because I like paperback more than Kindle. I do have the Kindle app, and I have a lot of like free books that I just like downloaded. But when I read stuff on there, I really don't take it all. I think I've just trained my brain in that if I'm reading something on my phone, it's fan fiction. I don't have to take it that seriously. So I mostly just paperbacks. But that is Presidential Chaos by Saxon James, which is book 3 in Frat Wars. Have I read books 1 and 2? No. I just decided that I didn't probably need to, and I honestly, I don't think I needed to. All it would have done is given me backstory on some of the other relationships that we saw in here. But this is about these 2 rival frat presidents, and there's somebody, and they're, they've been hooking up on the DL for a while, but it's like there's no strings attached. It's dark all the time. Like there's nothing going on there. But then somebody is trying to take down this one frat, and it's pretty dumb. But it wasn't poorly written. A lot of these books are, but this one wasn't. It wasn't poorly written. It did have like a semi kind of fan fiction quality that a lot of these do. Yeah. But it wasn't that bad. It honestly wasn't that high. And honestly, some fan fiction is better written than some published fiction. So yeah, it was okay. Characters were alright. I did like the characters, actually. And it did make me want to go back and read the other 2 books in the series. I did add them onto my Amazon cart, save for later. So I will be reading them at some point. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It wasn't bad. And finally, this past week, I read Dryland by Sarah Jaffe, I'm not sure. This is a novel that takes in the 90s in Portland, following this girl whose older brother was previously in like an Olympic swimming hopeful, but now he lives in Germany and they haven't really heard from him in a while, and she decides that she is going to join the swim team because a cute girl asked her to, and she's like, okay, I better. And it's about her dealing with that. It's about her learning things about her older brother. It's about her learning things about herself. And it's all written in a very important novel about the 90s way. Reading this felt like watching a Gus Van Sant film, I'm not gonna lie. I can understand where it's an important book, and I can understand where it's somebody's like favorite book of all time. It wasn't that for me. There was a lot to do with the swimming, and there was a lot to do with like sexuality stuff. But it was okay. It was good. It was well written. It was decent. I can understand where it's a very important book for some people. For me, it was okay. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And the reason that I only read those 5 books, and I realize that for a lot of people, 5 books is a lot. I'm generally reading at least 7 or 8. More like 7 to 10 is my normal range. That's because I'm like 550 pages into The Way of Kings. This is a reread. I'm actually liking it a lot more than I did the first time around. The first time around, I went back and I looked at my old Goodreads review. I read this between the summers after I graduated high school and when I started college. So I was like 17, 18. And I gave it 3.5 stars, and I didn't like it until the very end. It's so good. It's so good. Oh my God. Like Kaladin is still like the prince of my heart. Oh my God, it's so good. So that's why I haven't read anything other than those 4. But I should be able to finish that within the next couple of days is my hope. Like I said, I'm like 500, I'm just over the halfway mark. I've been reading it for like 3 days, I think. But I do know that based on previous readings of this book and readings of other Brandon Sanderson books, that once you get into the last 200 pages, it's just like crazy intense. So I do think that I should be able to finish up sooner rather than later. These are the books I read this past week. That is all for today. I'll talk to you later, and goodbye.